on to this foolishness. So now, at this point, when it comes down to Trump, anything, he just throws whatever at the wall and sees what sticks. Everything he has touched so far has turned to absolute poop. His approval ratings is in the toilet, basically. And so it should come as no shock as like, here's another situation where he's trying to throw at the wall. So, with his tariffs thing, which we already see, like the tariffs thing is actually destroying our economy in real time. I mean, the price of eggs apparently is still going up. Food prices going up. Everything is going up. At one point, we were even going to have, Jeff Bezos was going to put the tariff prices next to the regular prices over on Amazon. And then, they pulled their little bully stuff over there at the Trump administration, and Jeff Bezos took it down. But one thing I learned is because I was like, why are you all of a sudden being a rhymes with mussy in regards of this whole situation? Because apparently what I have found out is that Amazon is under investigation, kind of like what Elon Musk and his many businesses were under investigation. So now it makes sense as to why Jeff Bezos is backpedaling. But it seems like it seems to be the ongoing theme when it comes to a lot of these billionaire oligarchs. And when, they can't do business the right way. Everything has got to be some type of criminal underlining to the businesses that they do. So now it seems like, because he's clearly bored and doesn't know how to be presidential. I mean, he could barely be presidential in his first term. But now that you got yourself around a bunch of damn sycophants and morons, now it's like they're trying to do this whole tariff thing on Hollywood, which there's some people saying like they don't even know how that's going to work. So according to the reports, and this is to Variety, by the way, from Variety, they said it was unclear how the levies, which were announced over the weekend on social media, would be enforced and which productions are most vulnerable to the tariffs. Yet there are widespread concerns that if they are enacted, Trump's latest moves have the potential to upend and potentially decimate a global film business that relies on a network of international incentives and foreign locations to make movies. Now, everything from low-budget indies to studio blockbusters are currently being made in countries like the UK, France, Germany, and Hungary. Even his buddy, Mel Gibson, who he actually has as one of his special ambassadors. He has a Hollywood, I don't know if y'all know this. He has a Hollywood special ambassador thing that he's got going on. So it's Mel Gibson, Sylvester Stallone, and Jon Voight. They're on the thing. So now I'm wondering, is Mel Gibson going to be affected by this? Because here's another thing y'all should laugh at. Apparently they're making a sequel to The Passion of the Christ. Now, last I checked, if you believe the Grimm's fairy tales, aka the Bible, Christ ain't come back from the dead. So how we writing this? But you already know them little lunatic radical evangelicals are going to eat this mess up. The movie's going to flop at the box office. Like, you have to really think about at the time of when The Passion of the Christ came out, how well it did. But then again, we got so many brainwashed people in this country, it'll probably be a blockbuster hit. Because a lot of those Christian movies turn out to be, I mean, if you can keep the budget a certain way. So yeah. So now, how is that going to affect it? Because he's about to shoot that film in Italy. And that's supposed to be, I believe, in September when he's supposed to start filming. So now the reaction in the UK, where so many US movies are filming, has been the most vitriolic, saying, this makes no sense. This is what a UK producer rallied. It implies that a US film is meant to shoot in the US, but the Harry Potter films, Lord of the Rings, Schindler's List, Mission Impossible, Gladiator, Avatar, and so many more are US films that shot overseas for obvious reasons. Do these films have to shoot in the US from now on? It's an absurd announcement with no meaning nor understanding of storytelling or creative impulses. And that's because when you have someone with absolutely no damn talent, and not only no talent, but you don't even know how to run businesses. You've gone bankrupt 6 times, and you've been bankrupted a casino. So if he's a failed businessman, what makes you think he knows anything about politics or even Hollywood? Which I heard that at one point he wanted to start his own media business. Hence, I guess why he got True Social. He didn't really want to get into politics. Politics, everybody knows, is the biggest grift that you could possibly get into, especially in the United States. So he knew, let me jump in on that and have the right people around me that we could just slither through each loophole, because when it came to our founding fathers, they expected that a lot of the politicians who were going to do things were based on good faith. But you already know this man plays dirty. So if you actually thought that he was going to do things based off of good faith, but I guess at this point, the founding fathers never realized that this day would ever come. But y'all should have dotted your I's and crossed all your T's just in case. But then again, like I said, they're not psychic. You're not Nostradamus. They wouldn't know. So What people need to understand is this, because shout out to the Hollywood Reporter, because I didn't even know this either. They said that how the whole international shooting overseas, because back in the 50s, they actually, and prior to that, everything was shot on studio lots in California, or just we'll just say in the United States in general. So when that happened, one of the films named Roman Holiday, which starred Audrey Hepburn and Gregory Peck, the director, William Wyler, wanted to shoot the film in Italy. He didn't want to shoot it on a backlot, the way that all Hollywood films were shot in those days. So what happened was he was going, he was just, Paramount Pictures didn't want to do it. The Italian Ministry of Tourism didn't want to do it. Everybody was resisting against him, but he insisted, and eventually he got his way. So, excuse me, when you see that movie, you see Audrey Hepburn and Gregory Peck tearing through the streets of Rome on a Vespa, among many, Princess Anne iconic scenes. Now you know why. And then since then, because I guess the movie was a success, and they saw how that film was, then you started to see more films starting to shoot overseas. And then it got to a point where the reason why a lot of movies shoot overseas, because it's too expensive to shoot things here. I just heard that Gavin Newsom is talking about, he's doing a $7.3 billion, a 7.3 or 7.5, one of those numbers, incentive to bring films and stuff back to California. But I'm like, if that's going to happen, what are going to be the tax incentives? Because it's too expensive to shoot in LA. Hence why, if they do shoot in the United States, they go to either New York, where they do get like a tax break on, for certain films or whatever, and Georgia. Why a lot of stuff, they just shot Thunderbolts in Georgia. So, or a lot of MCU movies get shot in Georgia. Right now, they're shooting Doomsday in the UK, but for the most part, you're offered these incentives where the tax breaks are greater. And of course, Canada is another one. When you look at a lot of the shows, a lot of the movies, The Last of Us is shot in Canada. Supernatural was shot in Canada. Like, there's so many shows and movies that are shot in Canada. And that's why, because, the tax incentive. So if this is his way of like, I'm just trying to get revenge, or because you're mad at all these other countries, then you're not doing it because you care about Hollywood. You're doing it because you feel like you're punishing these other countries. But what you need to realize is Hollywood movies, when they're, those, I feel like out of everything, that's the one thing that is actually made in America. They write the scripts in the United States. They hire the actors in the United States. They hire the writers in the United States. The people that work on the sets are from the United States, unless they go overseas and they start shooting and they use other people. But for the most part, everything is built in the U.S. before they make the decision to go to another country. So it's not computing. I guess he thinks that Hollywood movies are no different than, making a pair of Nikes, which is made in China, or that iPhone, which is made in China. So I just, it just irritates me sometimes when you have people who just react on impulse and don't know what the hell they're doing. Not only with this, but just with their job in general. So another British producer said this. They said, even unemployed Americans are saying this is nuts. These are people who have genuinely had their careers shattered because of production moving to Europe. Now, Echo's another London-based producer. They say, if this goes the distance, it will decimate the industry, but you can't just stop production. When does it come into effect? What about movies in pre-production? That are shooting or in post? Would you just double their costs? None of this has been thought through. Well, that's pretty much anything that he comes out with. None of it's been thought through. And if y'all been paying attention, that's pretty much what it is. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He's like, tariffs. He's obsessed with these fucking tariffs. So I think the calm response is, let's see what this means. Let's see the fine print. Now, production in the U.S. is down 40% after Hollywood resolved strikes with the actors and screenwriters unions, and some major films, including the next Avengers movie, have decamped to the U.K. and other European cities. Incentives are partly responsible for the move, although many states such as Georgia and New York offer generous film funding packages that rival those of other countries. Hollywood lobbying arms, such as the Motion Picture Association, have argued that the U.S. needs a federal film incentive as a carrot to lure productions back. Trump appears to have opted for using tariffs as a stick. Now, sources say that Voight and his manager, Stephen Paul, have been taking meetings with various guilds, hoping to get more information about the state of production in order to advise the president on revigorating filming in the U.S. Now, on Sunday, his message was getting passed around Hollywood as execs join emergency meetings to try to make sense of a proposal that is still dimly understood. Now, before the news dropped about Trump's plan, Gaëtan Brul, who was recently appointed president of France's National Film Board and previously headed the French Cultural Services in the U.S., feared the Trump administration would start targeting cinema and audiovisual media and argued that everyone would lose out, starting with the U.S. industry itself, saying, quote, Europe and France in particular are major markets for American works, which he says represent roughly 60% of the content that people consume in Europe. Another important figure in France who runs a top festival said technically films are services on which you can't impose tariffs. It could end up in court and take months, while a producer who delivers French blockbusters, for which the US is a key market, said we don't sell goods, we sell a service, so I don't see how it could be taxable. It's difficult to know what we're talking about at this stage, what it concerns. It's still very vague, and with Trump, things can change every day. Yeah, he's just like all over the place with stuff. Now, in Italy, Rome's Cinecetta, I think is how you say that, studios, which is set to host and the shoot of Gibbs's The Resurrection of the Christ in September, reacted diplomatically, saying, we are observing with the utmost attention and movements to an important market like the U.S. This is what the CEO, Manuela Cacciamani, said in a statement. We are convinced that, especially in the cultural industry and the audiovisual sector is at its forefront, exchanges between countries must be as reciprocal and circular as possible. We know how much American productions benefit from our tax incentives, and above all, from that ecosystem of beauty, locations, climate, culture, style, knowledge, for which they have always chosen Italy, seeking quality and cannot be found elsewhere. And that's why I said I don't understand why this is a problem, because the reality is, if you shoot a Mission Impossible movie or anything like that, you want the locations, or even like Fast and the Furious. If you're doing a scene where it's like you have to go catch a bad guy and he's out in Rome, you have to shoot in Rome. Nobody wants to shoot on a backlot that's made to look like freaking Italy, because then people could tell it's fake. People are like, oh no, I don't like that. Or like a green screen. Like, no, they want the location shoots. And yeah, when you do those scenes or whatever, you are given a tax incentive. But this is from someone who ain't paid a tax in like God knows how long. So of course, this would be something that he would be against. So I say all this to say, yet we have an idiot who not only have no idea how politics work, but also has no idea how Hollywood works. Now, everything, as I said, cannot be shot in the U.S., especially when the taxes on filming are extremely high in places like Los Angeles. Hence why some films shoot in places like Canada, Ireland, and the UK. Now, while he's focusing on the film industry, have they even taken the time to think about how this affects streaming? So services like Netflix bypass the theater to distribute a lot of foreign films on their app. One industry insider did state that he has no jurisdiction to do this and it's too complex to enforce. So like everything else, when it comes to Trump, this could be a political theater, excuse me, to distract from his low approval rating and the fact that his tariffs on everything from clothing, food, and electronics will affect many Americans, mostly his own supporters. So now I do agree that we need to bring more movies back to the U.S. for filming. How you manage to do that is the real question. Now, there needs to be incentives put in place that will entice studios to want their films to shoot on sound stages in the U.S. instead of overseas. The Trump administration also needs to inform the studios who will be tariffed and how the tariffs will affect Hollywood. You can't just say I'm putting 100% tariffs on movies, but refuse to specify which films. It causes nothing more than panic and confusion, which, if you've been following the current administration for the past 100 plus days, is what they thrive on. Also, how will films that are shot in the U.S. but use the services of overseas VFX houses be affected? Hollywood also uses composers and editors that live outside the U.S. Will they be tariffed as well? What about the box office of a movie? Will they be tariffed based on how much the movie makes? Are moviegoers going to be tariffed via VOD? So, for example, if I decide to buy the latest Mission Impossible movie on Prime Video, instead of paying the $25 that it usually costs when I'm over on Prime Video and I want to see a certain film that just dropped on VOD, will I end up paying $50? Because this is going to sit there. I'm not going to pay for it until the numbers flash. Like I just looked the other day. And I think Hard Eyes is, I don't know if it's on Netflix yet or it's coming soon. But I looked on Prime Video the other day, Hard Eyes is like $10 now. So I'm like, okay, now I can get it because I'm not going to be spending like 25, 30 bucks on certain movies. If I want to get certain movies, I'm going to just spend like, okay, $10 is a good enough price. I'm going to buy it now. It's been out long enough. Like what, 3 months? Well, it came out in like Valentine's in February. So like, yeah, 3 months. So, and let's not forget about other countries already retaliating against us due to how Trump is treating Canada, Mexico, and China. Now, what if they decide to put tariffs on Hollywood wanting to shoot internationally? So instead of jumping on social media with yet another dumb idea, how about you actually come up with a plan before you cause pandemonium? So yeah, those are my overall thoughts. Jesus, I'm sick of this horrible cough I got. So yeah, those are my overall thoughts on this. I know this is going to be a lengthy one, but yeah, this is not something that could just be wrapped up in like 2 minutes. This is a complex issue that's got a lot of people in Hollywood not only talking but panicking, and so and trying to figure out, okay, what the hell does this mean? What are you talking about? Yet again, there's another damn, you know, wrecking ball thrown against something, and we don't know what this means. While he's probably all doing something stupid per usual, but everybody's running around here spooked, nervous, and confused. So I say all this to say, what do you guys think of this story in regards to the latest with the president targeting Hollywood now with some stupid tariffs? Like, if the tariffs ain't working on everything else, what makes you think it's going to be any better to Hollywood? And yes, and when it comes to Hollywood, you thinking putting 100% on tariffs is going to bring movies back to the US? Like, that's not how things work. But yet again, he doesn't even know how to run his businesses. He doesn't even know how to run the country. What makes you think he understands how to run Hollywood? So none of this is surprising to me. So I would definitely want to hear from y'all. So let me know what your thoughts are on this story in the comments down below.